The galaxy was vast, more endless than any human mind could imagine. Stars stretched like glittering rivers across the black canvas of space, and planets spun silently in their lonely orbits. To the Council of the Galactic Union, it was a dangerous and beautiful place, but also a place full of rules. Every species had its boundaries, its fears, and its limits. And now, a mission was being proposed that none had dared attempt. In the grand halls of the Galactic Union, representatives of countless species gathered. Their forms were diverse beyond imagination. Some were glowing orbs of light, some walked on 6 limbs, others floated like clouds of gas held together by unseen forces. They spoke in languages and thoughts that humans could barely comprehend. Yet, the humans were there too, small in number, fragile in body, but burning with a stubborn fire in their eyes. "The dark nebula is not for us," said a Zervan delegate, its voice like grinding metal. "The radiation alone could tear our ships apart. The storms inside it are death itself." "Not worth the risk," said an Alari ambassador, their multiple eyes flickering like liquid silver. "We have explored far enough. The signal is curious, yes, but it is not necessary to chase it. Many species have vanished trying to probe similar anomalies." Maya Rains, captain of the human ship Endurance, listened quietly. She had trained her whole life for moments like this, but nothing could have prepared her for the mixture of fear and hesitation that filled the room. Other species debated endlessly, each refusing to step forward, and then, as if a quiet storm, she rose. "We will go," she said simply. Her voice was calm, steady, but carried the weight of determination. Every eye in the hall turned toward her. Some were shocked, some were skeptical, and some were curious. The council murmured. "Alone?" one asked. "You mean humanity will go without support?" "Yes," Maya said, her eyes scanning the chamber. "If everyone else refuses the mission, we will take it ourselves." Her words hung in the air, ringing with a stubborn clarity. The room fell silent. The young humans had always been underestimated, thought fragile and inexperienced. But here, in the presence of the galaxy's most advanced species, they were daring to take the impossible. Inside the human delegation, Lieutenant Haran's hand trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the council platform. "Are you sure, Captain?" he whispered. "No other species will help us. It could be a suicide mission." Maya turned to him and smiled faintly. "Haran, this is exactly why we must go. Humanity has always survived where others feared. We carry the weight of daring, of hope. That is our strength." The council argued late into the galactic night. Delegates listed dangers, cosmic storms, unknown energy waves, potential contact with intelligent entities that might be hostile. They spoke of ships torn apart, crews lost forever, planets destroyed by curiosity. But for humanity, risk was never a reason to stand still. It was a reason to move forward. Back on Earth, families watched the preparations for the Endurance with a mix of pride and fear. Children looked at their parents' faces, wide-eyed, sensing the bravery of the people, who would soon vanish into the stars. Mothers whispered prayers into the cold night air. Fathers clenched their fists silently. And yet, there was an undeniable spark of hope. Humanity had always been small among the giants, yet somehow they had a stubborn courage that no species could match. As the Endurance's engines prepared for departure, Maya walked the length of the ship. She touched the polished steel hull, feeling the vibrations of energy thrumming through it. She looked up at the stars through the observation deck, the endless black stretching beyond comprehension. Somewhere out there, the dark nebula waited, a swirling mass of unknown danger. And somewhere beyond it, a signal pulsed, calling them forward with a strange, insistent rhythm. This is it, she whispered to herself. The moment when we show what it means to be human. Her crew assembled. In the control room, faces lit by the soft glow of their instruments. Each of them carried a mix of fear, hope, and excitement. Some were seasoned veterans, others were young and green, but all shared one thing, a belief in the impossible. They were going where no one else dared, and they would face the unknown. With courage, the engines roared to life, humming with a power that seemed alive, shaking the Endurance with anticipation. The ship lifted off from the human colony, leaving behind familiar planets, friends, and the comfort of the known. The void of space embraced them, dark and cold, yet full of possibility. Maya stood at the command chair, her hands steady on the controls. "Set course for the Dark Nebula," she ordered. "No matter what awaits, we go. Humanity does not retreat." And so, as the stars streaked past in long, shimmering lines, the Endurance began its solitary journey. All species had abandoned the mission. All had turned away from the danger, the unknown, the signal. But humanity had chosen to face it alone. Somewhere deep in the blackness, the Dark Nebula waited. It was alive with energy, strange and beautiful, dangerous and untamed. It had never seen humans before, and it had no idea what it was about to face. Maya exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. "We may be small," she said softly, "but we do not yield. Not ever. This is what it means to be human." And with that, the journey began, alone against the void, toward a future that no species had ever dared imagine. The Endurance sailed through the black ocean of space, leaving the last human colony behind. The familiar blue and green world shrank in the viewport, a tiny marble glowing against the darkness. Behind it lay comfort, safety, and everything known to humans. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the unknown. Yet, the crew moved forward without hesitation, driven by a quiet determination that only humans seemed to carry. Inside the ship, the corridors hummed with life. Engineers checked their instruments, pilots adjusted the navigation controls, and scientists pored over star charts. That barely made sense. Every human aboard the Endurance knew the risks. They had seen the reports of cosmic storms, radiation bursts, and gravitational anomalies, yet fear did not dominate them. It sharpened them. Lieutenant Haran walked beside Captain Maya Raines in the observation deck, his eyes tracing the endless stars. "Do you really think we can survive out here?" he asked softly, almost afraid that asking the question would jinx them. Maya's gaze did not leave the stars. "It's not about surviving, Haran. It's about trying. Humanity is never content to stay behind. We go forward, even when the rest of the galaxy retreats." The words hung in the air, carrying a quiet truth that had guided humans since the Yao Se. First steps on Earth. Humanity had always faced storms, disasters, and the impossible, and somehow they had endured. The Endurance was more than a ship. It was the embodiment of that stubborn will. Days passed, then weeks. Space revealed its dangers slowly but relentlessly. Tiny asteroids drifted unseen until they grazed the shields, leaving small sparks that scorched the metal hull. Cosmic storms shimmered in the distance, brilliant yet deadly, and radiation pulses made instruments wail warnings that the human crew ignored with careful adjustments. Each obstacle tested their skill, their teamwork, and their courage. One night, in the silence of deep space, Haran approached Maya again. He held a data tablet showing the latest readings. "Captain, we are entering a region where radiation levels are extreme. Other species would have turned back already." Maya looked at him, her face calm but her eyes sharp with focus. "Exactly. And we are not other species. That's why we continue. Because humans do not retreat when faced with danger. We adapt. We endure. That is what makes us different. The crew worked tirelessly, often sleeping only a few hours at a time. Every task was crucial: power management, shield calibration, navigation through asteroid belts, and monitoring the mysterious signal that seemed to grow stronger with each day. The signal pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat, pulling them forward, whispering promises of discovery and knowledge. Despite the hardships, moments of quiet beauty appeared. The Endurance passed by a cluster of dying stars, their gases painting the void with gold and crimson. Meteors streaked like fleeting comets, and distant nebulae glowed like luminous oceans suspended in space. The humans gazed at the wonders silently, feeling both awe and the weight of their solitude. They were alone, but they were not small. In one tense moment, a rogue asteroid field appeared on their sensors without warning. Alarms blared, and the ship trembled as shields struggled to repel the tiny but fast-moving rocks. Crew members shouted instructions, adjusting thrusters and deflectors in perfect synchronization. Hours felt like minutes as the Endurance wove through the deadly field. When the last asteroid passed, silence fell over the bridge. Haran exhaled slowly. "No other species could have done this," he said, voice tinged with both relief and wonder. Maya nodded, her hand resting lightly on the control panel. "We are human," she said softly. "We find a way where others see only obstacles. That is our promise. That is our strength." As the journey continued, small victories and minor defeats shaped the crew. They repaired hull breaches with ingenuity, rerouted power through improvised conduits, and kept morale alive with stories of home, laughter, and shared dreams. The loneliness of deep space pressed against them like a physical force, yet humans had a resilience born of centuries, of struggle and survival. One evening, the crew gathered in the mess hall. The lights were. The Endurance glided deeper into uncharted space, leaving familiar stars and planets behind. The darkness stretched endlessly, broken only by the faint glow of distant suns. The crew moved with a quiet intensity, each member aware that they were venturing where no other species dared. The signal from the dark nebula pulsed more strongly now, like a heartbeat calling them forward, testing their courage and determination. One morning, the sensors aboard the Endurance flickered and hummed with sudden activity. A vast shadow had entered their path, something massive, something alive, or so the readings suggested. The crew gathered at their stations, tension thick in the air. The scanners could barely comprehend the entity, its energy signature unlike anything documented in galactic databases. Lieutenant Haran's voice shook slightly as he spoke. "Captain, this is unlike anything we've ever seen. It's huge. The instruments can't track it properly. It might be alive." Maya's eyes narrowed. "Alive or not, it's here, and we face it, because that is what humans do. We do not flee from the unknown." She moved to the command console, her fingers flying over the controls. "All systems prepare for extreme energy fluctuations. Shields up, engines ready, and everyone stay calm. We are not victims. We are humans, and humans endure." The energy entity loomed closer, stretching across space like a living shadow, pulsing with power that made the ship's hull vibrate. Its waves of energy distorted the sensors, creating strange illusions on the screens. The crew felt their stomachs tighten as alarms blared intermittently, warning of power surges that could cripple the ship in moments. Engineer Lyra worked furiously, rerouting energy to stabilize the shields. Sparks flew from panels as she shouted instructions to the team. "Divert power from the secondary engines. Focus on shields. We cannot let it touch us." Hours passed in a tense dance of calculation and courage. The entity pulsed with an almost intelligent awareness, testing the Endurance, probing their shields, nudging their hull with invisible waves of force. It was a trial by cosmic fire, and for a moment, the humans felt the weight of the universe, pressing against them. Haran glanced at Maya, fear and awe mixing in his expression. "Captain, it's testing us. It knows we are here." Maya's jaw tightened. "Then we show it what humans are. We adapt, we endure, we survive." She directed Lyra to adjust the harmonics of the shields to a frequency that could absorb and redistribute the energy pulses. The crew worked as one, each member contributing their knowledge, their strength, their will. Time blurred. The entity pulsed faster, stronger, and closer. Energy arcs licked the hull, making the ship shudder. Violently, crew members gritted their teeth, holding on to their stations, hearts pounding. Yet through the fear, a strange rhythm began to emerge. Lyra's adjustments, Haran's navigation, and Maya's commands created a subtle resonance with the entity itself. Then, in a sudden moment of clarity, Maya realized the key. It's communicating, not with words, but with energy. We match its pulse. All systems, synchronize with the frequency I'm sending. The Endurance shivered as the shields vibrated in perfect harmony with the entity. For the first time, it paused, its massive form stilling in the void. The crew held their breath, hearts pounding in unison. Slowly, the shadow-like energy shifted away, drifting silently like a cloud released from tension. A cheer broke out in the control room, low but victorious. Haran exhaled deeply. "No other species could have done this," he whispered. We survived." Maya looked at her crew, pride and relief shining in her eyes. "We did not just survive. We listened. We adapted. We endured." Humanity does not flee from the unknown. We face it. The encounter left the Endurance shaken, but unbroken. Panels smoked lightly from the energy surges, but no critical systems had failed. The crew moved quickly to assess damage, repair minor breaches, and ensure that every system was ready for whatever came next. Every small victory reminded them of their resilience and unity. That night, in the quiet of the observation deck, Maya gazed at the stars with a mix of awe and contemplation. The entity had not attacked to destroy them. It had tested them. It had challenged them. And humanity had met the test. Haran joined her silently, his eyes reflecting both the vastness of space and the enormity of what they had faced. "Do you think it will follow us?" he asked. Maya shook her head, her voice soft but steady. "No. It wanted to see if we were worth noticing, and now it knows. Humanity is not afraid. Humanity does not retreat. We survive where others fail. That is what we offer the galaxy: courage, resilience, and hope." Sleep was difficult that night. The crew's minds buzzed with adrenaline and wonder. Some stared at the stars for hours, imagining what other unknown forces lay ahead. Others spoke quietly to friends, sharing relief and gratitude for having survived together. And all of them carried a growing realization: humanity alone was venturing where no species dared. As the Endurance sailed onward, deeper into the shadow of the dark nebula, the crew felt a profound truth settle within them. The universe was alive, immense, and unpredictable. Danger lurked everywhere, but humanity had faced the impossible, and in doing so, had begun to carve a place for themselves among the stars. Somewhere ahead, the signal pulsed ever brighter, guiding them toward discoveries that no species had ever seen. The entity they had encountered was only the first test of many. But for the humans aboard the Endurance, the lesson was clear. Fear was not a reason to stop, and solitude was not a reason to surrender. Maya rested her hands lightly on the rail of the observation deck, staring into the unknown. "We are human," she whispered to herself, "and we endure. No matter the darkness, no matter the danger, no matter who abandons the path, we endure. That is our strength. That is our promise." And with that, the Endurance pressed onward, carrying humanity's courage into the uncharted void, alone but unbroken, toward the mysteries that awaited at the edge of the dark nebula. The Endurance sailed onward, deeper into the dark nebula, and the stars outside grew dimmer, swallowed by swirling clouds of cosmic dust. Every light seemed to flicker in warning, every sensor beeped with faint alarms. The nebula was alive in its own way, unpredictable, restless, and dangerous. And the humans, alone among the stars, pressed forward. Days turned into nights without distinction. Sleep was short, interrupted by the constant hum of engines and the warning of fluctuating shields. The crew's fatigue was visible in the lines on their faces, in the shadows beneath their eyes, yet they worked tirelessly. Every panel, every system, every sensor was monitored with relentless care. Humanity had always thrived in the face of hardship, but even they felt the weight of solitude pressing down on their shoulders. Lieutenant Haran sat at his station, staring at the readings with furrowed brows. "Captain, radiation levels are spiking again. This area is more hostile than anything we've faced before. We might not survive another hour if this continues." Maya leaned over the console, her expression calm but determined. "Then we endure another hour, then another. That is what humans do. No one else would attempt this. No one else would risk their lives in the dark. But we persist." Engineer Lyra wiped sweat from her brow as she adjusted the energy shields. "It's relentless," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Every step forward, something else tries to stop us. Hull breaches, radiation, microasteroid strikes. It never ends." Maya placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Exactly. And that is why we succeed. Because when the universe says stop, humans say we go forward anyway. That is the difference." The crew understood the cost more clearly now. One of the smaller auxiliary engines failed under the constant pressure of energy surges, sending sparks across the maintenance bay. The repair would take hours, but there was no room for despair. Every crew member pitched in, improvising parts. From what remained, working with both skill and hope. Even the ship's AI, usually precise and unemotional, seemed to hum with admiration at the humans' determination. "Probability of survival under current conditions. Extremely low," it reported in its monotone voice. "Human adaptability appears to exceed expected parameters." Haran chuckled despite himself. "You said it, AI. We survive because we refuse to accept defeat. That's what humans do. That's who we are." But the cost of persistence weighed heavily on their hearts. Sleep-deprived minds wandered into memories of home, of family, friends, and worlds left behind. Some wondered silently if they would ever return. Others clung to each other, finding courage in shared strength. Even in the darkness, small moments of laughter and camaraderie shone brightly, illuminating the human spirit. One night, while monitoring the signal, Maya noticed something new. The pulses were stronger, more deliberate, almost as if the nebula itself was aware of their presence. "The signal. It's reacting to us," she whispered, awe and unease mixing in her voice. "We are not invisible here. Something is watching." Haran's eyes widened. "Do you think it's friendly?" Maya shook her head slowly. "I don't know. But friendly or not, it is powerful. And it will test us. Everything about this mission, everything we've faced so far, is only the beginning." The following hours were spent reinforcing every system, double-checking every calculation, and preparing for the unknown. Each crew member knew that failure meant annihilation. Yet in their hearts, fear was tempered with determination. Humanity had always turned danger into. After days of relentless travel through the dark nebula, the Endurance finally approached the source of the mysterious signal. The stars around them had dimmed into a deep, almost suffocating black, and strange, shimmering clouds of energy swirled in the void. The signal pulsed stronger than ever, like a heartbeat guiding them forward, calling them to something unimaginable. The crew stood at their stations, awe and apprehension etched across every face. Lieutenant Haran's voice trembled as he spoke over the comm. "Captain, it's ahead. Whatever is sending this, it's enormous, and it's beautiful." Maya leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the view screen. The signal emanated from a massive crystalline structure, floating silently in the void. Its surface was covered with intricate patterns, glowing softly with colors that shifted like liquid fire. It was unlike anything in the galaxy, a monument not of any known species, a creation beyond imagination. "It's alive," whispered Lyra, her eyes wide with wonder. "Not in the way we think, but it feels aware. It's responding to our presence." The ship's sensors confirmed her intuition. The structure pulsed in rhythm with the signal, and small energy arcs traveled across its surface, almost like veins carrying life. The Endurance drifted closer, engines humming gently, to maintain position. Every crew member felt the weight of this moment. They had faced storms, shadows, and cosmic entities, but nothing compared to the awe that gripped them now. Maya's voice was quiet, steady, but carried an unmistakable edge of reverence. "This is what we came for. The others abandoned the mission, but we did not. Humanity faces the impossible, and this is the reward for daring." The signal began to change, shifting from a simple pulse to intricate patterns of light that rippled across the crystalline surface. It was as though the structure was trying to communicate, not in words, but in energy, in thought, in a language, older than stars. The crew felt it in their minds as much as with their instruments, a wave of ideas, visions, and emotions passing through them. Haran turned to Maya, voice full of awe. "It's showing us. Worlds destroyed. Civilizations gone. Entire species wiped out because they lacked courage, perhaps, or foresight." His eyes reflected the shifting lights of the crystal. "And yet, it's sharing something with us. Knowledge, wisdom, energy, technology, something incredible." Maya nodded slowly. "It only responds to those who persist, to those who face the unknown. It tests strength, resilience, and will. Humanity has not just survived the journey, it has proven itself worthy." The crew worked quickly to link their instruments to the signal, trying to interpret the complex waves of energy. Every calculation, every adjustment brought new insights, propulsion methods far beyond anything humans had known, energy sources that could illuminate entire planets, and glimpses of civilizations that had once thrived and vanished in the vast expanse. The structure was a library of the universe, and humanity was its first visitor in millennia. For the first time, fatigue and fear melted into wonder and purpose. Crew members whispered quietly to each other, sharing amazement and disbelief. The ship hummed with energy, and the humans felt themselves becoming part of something larger, something eternal. They were alone in reaching it, but their solitude did not diminish the enormity of the discovery. It amplified it. Suddenly, the crystalline structure pulsed violently, and the Endurance trembled. Energy arcs danced dangerously close to the hull, and the ship's instruments shrieked warnings. The signal was not just communication, it was a test. It probed, it challenged, and it demanded the humans prove themselves worthy once more. Maya's voice cut through the tension, calm and commanding. "All systems, synchronize with the signal. Match its frequency. Show it we are capable. Humanity does not falter in the face of the impossible." The crew responded immediately, hearts pounding, fingers moving with precision over controls. Shield harmonics were adjusted, energy conduits rerouted, and slowly the violent pulses began to settle. The crystalline structure responded, its patterns, softening, rippling gently across its surface. It was as though it had acknowledged them, recognized their courage, and allowed them to witness its full truth. Haran exhaled, relief and wonder mingling in his expression. We did it. We survived the test. And now, we understand. Maya smiled faintly, her gaze still fixed on the glowing monolith. We didn't just survive. We earned this. Humanity faces what others cannot. Humanity carries hope into the darkness. That is our gift. And that is our burden. The crew spent the following hours exploring the signal, absorbing knowledge that would change humanity forever. Plans for faster-than-light travel, methods to harness energy from stars, and strategies for surviving cosmic phenomena flowed into their minds and instruments. Each discovery brought both joy and awe, and a deep understanding of how fragile, yet resilient, intelligent life could be. Outside, the crystalline structure pulsed softly, almost as if in approval. The Endurance floated in the void, a small human ship dwarfed by the enormity of the universe, yet carrying the greatest treasure it could offer: courage, perseverance, and the will to endure against impossible odds. Maya turned to her crew, eyes shining with pride. We came alone because no one else would. And look at what we found. The universe does not reward the timid. It rewards those who dare. That is humanity. That is what it means to be human. The crew nodded silently, hearts full of awe and determination. They knew the journey was far from over. The dark nebula still held dangers, and the knowledge they had gained came with responsibility. But for the first time, they felt truly worthy of the task they had undertaken. As the Endurance drifted away from the crystalline structure, the crew realized a profound truth. All species had abandoned the mission, but humanity had endured alone. And because of that courage, they had touched something greater than themselves, something eternal, something that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Maya returned to the observation deck, gazing at the soft glow of the structure, fading behind them. We face unknown dangers, she whispered, but humanity has proven itself. Alone, we achieved what no one else dared, and alone, we will continue. And somewhere, deep within the dark nebula, the signal pulsed quietly, as if promising that the universe had only begun to reveal its wonders to those who refused to retreat. The Endurance floated deeper into the dark nebula, carrying humanity's courage and the knowledge gleaned from the crystalline structure. The stars outside were faint, shrouded by swirling clouds of energy that danced like living shadows. For days, the ship had drifted in this strange expanse, absorbing the wisdom of the signal and preparing for whatever lay ahead. But the universe was not finished testing them. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared as energy readings spiked across every sensor. A massive gravity storm, unlike anything they had encountered before, rippled through the nebula. Its forces twisted space, stretching light into eerie streaks and pressing the ship from every direction. The Endurance groaned as shields strained to hold, and the crew gritted their teeth, bracing for impact. "Captain!" Haran shouted over the alarms. "This storm, it could tear the ship apart. No one could survive this." Maya's hands rested firmly on the controls. Her eyes were calm, steady, and filled with unwavering determination. "Haran, no one else is here. We are humanity, and humans endure. We face what others flee. Prepare for the impossible. We do not turn back." The storm lashed the ship with invisible tendrils of energy. Hull plating twisted under immense pressure, and shields flickered under the violent assault. Sparks erupted from panels, and the ship's systems screamed for stabilization. Crew members worked furiously, rerouting power, reinforcing shields, and calculating evasive maneuvers in real time. Lyra's voice rang with urgency as she shouted instructions to the engineers. Divert all auxiliary power to the main shields. Reinforce the harmonic dampeners. We must stabilize the ship. Every pulse of the storm tested the endurance, probing its strength, its crew, and their ability to endure. Yet through the chaos, a strange rhythm emerged, a pattern in the storm itself. Maya recognized it almost instinctively. It's communicating, she said, voice low but commanding. The storm, it's testing us, just like the crystalline structure did. We match its rhythm. Synchronize with me. The crew responded. Instantly, nerves steeled and hearts racing. Harmonics were adjusted, energy conduits realigned, and the shields began to resonate with the storm's pulses. The violent shaking lessened, replaced by a trembling harmony that spread through the ship. Slowly, the storm's wrath became a rhythm they could predict, a challenge they could meet. Hours stretched into a grueling trial. Every moment demanded precision, courage, and unyielding focus. The storm surged, calmed, and surged again, as if the universe itself were testing humanity's resolve. Crew members shouted over the din, hearts pounding, yet determination never wavered. This was the ultimate test, and they were determined to pass. Haran glanced at Maya, awe and exhaustion in his eyes. Captain, no other species could have survived this. We are the only ones. Maya's voice was calm, fierce, and full of pride. Exactly. And that is why we endure. Because humans do not retreat. Humans do not surrender. Every obstacle, every storm. It only proves our strength. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the storm began to abate. The ship's shields. The Endurance emerged from the dark nebula, battered but unbroken. The stars stretched across the void like ribbons of silver, familiar yet forever changed by the journey they had endured. The crew gazed through the observation deck, silent in awe. They had faced storms, cosmic shadows, and ancient forces that no other species dared confront, and they had survived. Alone. Lieutenant Haran leaned against the console, voice soft. Captain, we did it. We made it through. Everything. And no one else dared even try. Maya Raines nodded, her eyes shining with pride and exhaustion. We endured. Humanity has never turned from danger. We do not retreat. We face the impossible. And we prevail. She paused, letting her words sink in, both for the crew and for herself. What we've learned, what we've seen, it is proof that courage is the greatest power in the universe. The crew worked quietly, restoring systems to full capacity and preparing for the long journey back to human space. Though the nebula still shimmered behind them, serene and beautiful after its tests, they carried with them more than just survival. They carried knowledge, wisdom, and an understanding of the universe that no other species had ever achieved. On the bridge, Lyra spoke quietly, almost in awe. Captain, the crystalline structure, the signal, it has shared everything with us. We have more knowledge in our hands than entire civilizations ever knew. And we did it. Alone. Yes, Maya said, her voice calm but strong. We did it because humans do not abandon hope. We do not flee from the unknown. And we do not wait for others to lead the way. We step forward. Always. The journey home was long and quiet. The crew reflected on the challenges they had faced, the storms, the energy entities, the solitude. Every trial had strengthened them. Every obstacle had honed their courage. They had seen the universe at its most terrifying and most beautiful, and they had endured. That alone was a story worth telling. As the Endurance approached human space, The first reports of their progress reached distant colonies. Humans had been gone for months, journeying alone where no other species had dared. And now news of their courage spread like wildfire. People across colonies and home worlds prepared for their return, waiting for the heroes who had dared to face the impossible. When the Endurance finally appeared in orbit above Earth, the crew could see the lights of the cities below twinkling like stars reflected on water. Messages of welcome, pride, and hope filled the communications channels. Humanity had returned, not just as explorers, but as legends. Maya stood on the observation deck, looking down at her home planet. "We went alone because no one else would," she said softly. "And because of that, we discovered the impossible. Humanity does not need others to show courage. Humanity shows courage by daring to go where no one else dares." The landing was met with jubilation. Families embraced, children ran through the streets, and every eye in the crowd seemed to shine with pride. The crew of the Endurance disembarked, weary but triumphant, carrying the weight of their journey with quiet dignity. They were not just returning heroes. They were the embodiment of human courage, hope, and persistence. In the Galactic Union, word of their journey reached even the most skeptical species. Delegates who had abandoned the mission watched as humans presented their discoveries, the energy harmonics, the crystalline data, and the lessons learned from the dark nebula. Many species expressed disbelief, others respect, and some, quietly, regret. Humanity had accomplished what no one else could, and the galaxy had to acknowledge it. Haran approached Maya, his voice filled with wonder. "Captain, they're calling it humanity's triumph. All the species, they're amazed. And rightly so. We did what no one else could do." Maya smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting both pride and humility. "It was never about recognition, Haran. It was about enduring, about stepping into the unknown when everyone else turns away. That is what humans do. That is what makes us who we are." The crew spent days sharing their knowledge, teaching, and documenting everything they had learned. Their discoveries would revolutionize space travel, energy, and understanding of the universe itself. Yet amidst the accolades and admiration, the crew remained grounded, remembering the countless hours of fear, struggle, and doubt that had shaped them. One evening, Maya stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars that had once seemed distant and impossible. "We are human," she whispered to the night sky, "and we endure. Alone, we faced what others abandoned. Alone, we showed the universe our courage. And alone, we triumphed." The Endurance had returned, but the journey was not just about a ship or a mission. It was about what it meant to be human, resilient, brave, and unwavering in the face of the impossible. The crew had seen the depths of the universe, faced the ultimate tests, and survived. They had proven that courage alone could illuminate the darkest corners of space. Across the galaxy, the story of humanity's solo journey through the dark nebula spread, inspiring countless others. Even species who had abandoned the mission spoke in hushed tones of admiration. Humans had shown the power of persistence, the value of hope, and the strength that comes from daring to stand alone. And for the crew of the Endurance, the memory of the dark nebula, of the crystalline structure, and of the storms they had endured would remain forever. They had faced the unknown, survived the impossible, and returned not just as explorers, but as symbols of the indomitable human spirit. Maya looked around at her crew, weary but radiant with pride. "We went alone because all others abandoned the mission," she said. "And in doing so, we discovered the true power of humanity. Alone, we endured. Alone, we triumphed. And alone, we proved that courage will always light the way." The stars beyond the observation deck shimmered, quietly as if acknowledging their achievement. Humanity had ventured into the unknown, survived, and returned stronger than ever. The universe had witnessed their courage, and in that courage, a message was clear. Even alone, humanity would never yield, never retreat, and never falter. Endurance rested on Earth, but the journey it had undertaken would echo across the galaxy for generations. Humanity had stepped forward when all others turned back, and in that moment, they had become more than explorers. They had become legends. The sun rose over Earth, casting warm golden light across the cities that had waited months for the return of the Endurance. Crowds had gathered not only to welcome back the crew, but to celebrate humanity itself, the species that dared where no one else would. Flags waved, cheers echoed, and tears of joy and relief sparkled on countless faces. The crew stepped onto the surface, weary but radiant, each one carrying the weight of their journey, the knowledge they had gained, and the courage they had. Proven Maya Raines led them forward, her gaze sweeping over the gathered masses. She had faced the unimaginable, stared into the void, and returned with humanity's triumph. Her voice, calm yet commanding, carried across the square. We went where no one else would. We faced dangers beyond imagination, and we endured, alone. That is who we are. That is humanity. Haran stepped beside her, his face glowing with pride and awe. All species abandoned the mission, he said quietly, so that only the people nearby could hear. All others turned away, but humanity did not. And that choice, that courage, has changed everything. The crowd erupted in applause, and yet the crew's hearts were heavy with the memory of the challenges they had faced. The dark nebula had tested them to the limit. Storms, cosmic entities, and the enigmatic crystalline structure, all of it had demanded every ounce of strength, every shred of determination. They had survived not by luck, but by will, by intelligence, by courage, and by the unbreakable bond of humans united in purpose. In the quiet moments that followed the celebration, Maya led her crew to the observation deck of the Endurance. The Rav ship, battered but unbroken, glimmered under the sunlight. Outside, the stars seemed distant now, yet closer than ever in memory. We carried humanity into the unknown, Maya whispered to her team. Alone, we faced what others feared, and alone, we showed the universe who we are. That is a story no one can take from us. Lyra, her hands still shaking slightly from exhaustion, nodded. We've seen wonders that no other species has. Knowledge, energy, technology. It's more than any civilization has ever known. And we survived it. Together. Maya placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder. Together, yes. But remember, it was courage that guided us. We persisted when all others abandoned the mission. We endured because humanity refuses to yield. And that courage, that will echo for generations. Haran looked out at the horizon, where Earth's oceans glittered under the morning sun. Do you think the galaxy understands now that humans are different? They will, Maya said softly. It is not just knowledge we bring back. It is proof. Proof that courage, persistence, and hope are more powerful than fear, doubt, or surrender. Humanity has shown what no other species could show, and that is eternal. As the crew watched, children ran past, laughing and dreaming of the stars. They looked up at the returning heroes and imagined themselves among the explorers, daring where no one else would. Humanity had not just survived, they had inspired. and the spark of that inspiration would grow across the galaxy, carried by generations who would hear the story of the endurance and the humans who refused to retreat. Maya walked to the center of the deck, looking up at the vast sky. "We